Welcome to the new Overlords Podcast, a video game show where I'm joined every week by someone whose ornithopter can carry another ornithopter. It's Sema. Hello there, Sema.
Hey, Max, you're so right. It's ornithopters all the way down.
Yeah, if your ornithopter can carry another ornithopter, and that ornithopter is carrying another ornithopter. They did say it could carry any vehicle. They didn't say if it could carry another carrier. That would be hilarious. You could just like have a whole stack of
people were bringing that up in chat, too.
We are talking about Dune. Big news. 2 rounds of pre-release news that's coming up here a little, about 8 days before the pre-launch, the early access launch. There was a dev
what do you call
Q&A.
it when it's early access, but of the actual launch, not early access.
Right, because it's not an early access. It's a early launch. It's a pre-launch. Yeah. I mean, that used to be called early access.
Perk launch.
Yeah.
Launch perk if you pay more.
Yes. So that's starting on the 5th. There was a content creator Q&A that happened 2 days ago. And then earlier today, there was a 2-hour dev stream with the devs that was really, really good. And we were going to talk about something completely different today. We'll probably save that for next week. I did play a bunch of RuneScape Dragon Wilds, which is interesting, but not as interesting as the Dune news. So that is all off of the table. We're sweeping the breaking news. This is a bulletin. News flash, stop the presses. We're going to talk about Dune, Deep Desert, and the End Game, because Sema and I both watched that 2-hour stream, and I was riveted.
Long. Yeah. I knew it was longer than half an hour, but I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah. Yeah, it was 2 hours. And the recording, like I'm on the YouTube page, and it's 2 hours and 18 minutes for the YouTube video, which I think includes like the pre and the post time where they're like playing videos and things like that. So advanced access. There you go. Forrester called it advanced access. So that's what we'll talk about. But first, got some other game news to catch up on.
Good news, everyone.
Good news. We have a Star Wars The Old Republic update that came out today.
Yep.
So that's 7.7, correct? I was trying to make sure I got the
Yes, it is.
The numbers right. It's that catchy 7.7 name. Well, they have a name for it, though. It's Dynamic Worlds. So the dynamic encounters that were introduced in 7.6, they get expanded to 7 more planets. So it was on 2 planets. Now we get 7 more planets. I didn't realize it was 7 more planets. I thought it was...
Yeah, it is 7 more.
So a total of 9 planets.
Yeah.
So that is fun. There's a master mode of the new operation that we've been messing around with. That's always a good time, with a new mount that we get to try to go after. If we can get ourselves up to the level of being able to do a master mode, I think that will be good. A couple other quality of life features. We talked about it a little bit in the last couple weeks. Because it only came out hours ago, we haven't had a big chance to play it yet, but we will be over the course of the next couple weeks, as we always do. One of the top games that you and I both play. You said you don't want to talk about your dynamic encounter that you dipped into?
I ran into a dynamic encounter on Coruscant, and I thought, well, might as well do it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like an escort quest.
Those are always the most fun quests in every MMO.
And you had to kill a certain number of Ugnaughts, but it only counted if they were aggroed by the thing the droid that you were escorting. So you couldn't like attack first. Or it didn't increment the counter. So you'd have to wait for the droid to come close and then shoot one of them and then AoE real quick so that you got them. Yeah. And then you have to wait for it to like do its droid saunter up to the next pack. And I'm like, oh my gosh. If I had known this, I would not have started this. But then you get to a certain point, you're like, I'm going to finish it.
Yeah, someday. But yeah. All right. Well, there's dozens of these things. So just put that on skip
I did make
list.
my Galactic Seasons target that I was working on for that. So
good. And we are all working through Galactic Seasons. That is something we're close to finishing up. Not only are we close to, I think most of us now are done with the 100 ranks of the Galactic season. It's sort of like a battle pass, but we're also close to finishing the meta achievements associated with it. I think it's just a couple more weeks of just knocking off a couple just random things, random objectives to get to 100 total objectives to get the achievement, I think is all I need. And I need a couple more of those kills in the uprisings to count for the 250.
Oh, do you?
Affected.
I
still need.
I need 4 more DVL bosses.
Oh, really? I'm done with the DVL bosses. So you
right? You're not alone.
How are you not done?
Well, I did.
You've done them all.
I missed one Tuesday night.
Oh yeah,
when I had family in town.
You had,
but I don't know why. I don't understand why I'm 4 behind instead of just 2 behind.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
So I'm kind of hoping that they actually do appear. If they don't appear, then I'm going to be scrambling that last week because they're all going to be available the last week.
Right. We did hear that news, which is, I think, a fun way to do it. It'll still be a little bit of a scramble, but I understand. This is something I'm not familiar with, but I understand you have friends, Sema, and they might be able to help you get those done in the last week. So there's that.
I don't have 24 friends. Maybe.
Oh, we'll make it happen. I will make it legal.
Thank you.
Also, up in the news, this is just a nice feel good for the gaming industry. Claire Obscure, Expedition 33. They kind of made a big deal of it. The developers, they're like, this is like such serendipity. They sold Expedition 33 sold 3.3 million copies in 33 days. So they are both killing it, and it was fun to have all the 3s line up like that for them, and they deserve it. They've done such a good job. I do wish, and I keep hearing people talk about this, and we talked about it a little bit last week. I just wish they put the dodge block system from Doom Dark Ages. I wish they put that block dodge system into Expedition 33. I would play through the rest of the game. I would have 100% of that game by now. But I just cannot bring myself to lose every block and dodge. Yeah. Even though it doesn't matter, even though you can get through it, I just feel bad. I feel bad. Right. And I've got other things that I gotta do.
I mean, after all, the point of playing a game is to have fun, not to feel bad.
But I keep hearing the story and the reveals are amazing. So I really want to go and sit down, and maybe I'll do that. And I bet there are videos out there that are just here's all the cutscenes all stitched together. I'm gonna do that. So I think that will be pretty fun. I'll just grab some snacks and sit down in front of the big screen and really enjoy that story playthrough and how it all stitches together. That'd be cool.
I did that with South of Midnight, and that story really developed and got good and had a great ending.
Oh, that's cool too. Yeah, that's a fun way to do it. That's always the way I used to do and still do if I ever play it, is the Final Fantasy 14. Do
you sit in your chair and nod while you're watching it?
I actually watch it on double speed on YouTube. The stitched together. Here's every cutscene from the latest expansion. I spacebar through it in the game as hard and as fast as I can. Skip every video and then watch it on double speed on a YouTube video over on the side while I actually play the game. Because some of those cutscenes, and some of them are uninterruptible. So then I just leave. Because why would you do that? Anyway. So yeah, I'll look forward to that. Something for you and I to put on our calendars, although I'll be playing Dune while it happens. Summer Game Fest. Jeff Keighley should have scheduled this a couple days earlier. This is coming up on June 6th. Boy, I kind of like this webpage. I like this undulating looping video behind the Game Fest logo. It's mesmerizing. And it's done it's graphical. It's not like they actually put sand on a bucket of paint.
Yes, I do know that.
I wonder how they did this. This looks like a geometry nodes kind of thing. That's cool. Anyway, that's coming up. And we've been a little light on game news and announcements and that kind of thing recently. I bet this is going to be an opportunity for some bigger announcements that are going to carry us through the end of the year, especially since now we know that Grand Theft Auto is getting pushed to 2026. I'm curious to see if we get any surprises coming out of this.
And that could even be why the little dip is because people are like, okay, now we'll just wait for this. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I would consider that as a marketing director of our game company, which I guess I am, even though Will, our intern, is our marketing director. I'm just one of those executive suits that makes all the wrong decisions and ruins the game industry. I'm also the lead developer, so there's that too.
And you don't wear a suit, but and
I don't wear a suit. Neither do any of the executives that people blame this kind of stuff on. But okay, like Joel, who wears Joel at Funcom,
right?
Who wears the crazy shoes that everybody is getting a big kick out of. We'll talk about that in a second.
Big shorts.
Oh, this is good news, Stask. This was on our list of games coming out. Nice Day for Fishing drops tomorrow. They should have waited for Summer Game Fest to announce that. That is the Viva La Dirt League YouTube channel spin-off pixel game.
It's not summer for them.
It is. That's true. It's winter for them. They're like, summer? Oh, crikey. It ain't summer down here. That's what they said. Just like that. Also in the news, I thought this was just fun to put a cap on it 2 years later. The FTC finally dropped their challenge. So they got overruled by, I think, an appeals court said, hey, your appeal of the merger of Blizzard and Microsoft is overruled. The FTC could have responded and tried to escalate or change their appeal. Instead, they dropped their challenge to the acquisition of Activision Blizzard by Microsoft, which happened way back in 2023 and is now done. So it's done, which I think everyone felt like it was done, thought it was done. It would have been really weird to unwind it at this point, but it's done officially. That's got to be nice for everybody involved to not have to worry about any contingency plans, which leads to, I think I put it a little bit further down, but it leads to weird things like, tell me about what showed up on the Battle.net launcher this week, Sema.
Oh, yeah, Sea of Thieves showed up on the Blizzard launcher. It's like, what?
Yeah.
And it's not the only game that's not a Blizzard game. There's also Call of Duty there. And if you scroll way, way, way down to the end, there's also
Doom Dark Ages is on there.
Oh, that's true. Doom Dark Ages is on there.
Avowed, Crash Bandicoot. Yeah, I mean, but it's only like 6 games. It's only like 7 or 8 games. But
it's like, how do they decide?
And what are they doing? What are they up to? So that's the thing that you and I were debating. What are you up to?
Right. In the case of, yeah. I mean, in some of the
Xbox Game Store. And
there's
Game
the Game
Pass.
Store, and also in some of these games are available on Game Pass. So I mean, I don't think Sea of Thieves is, but
I think Sea of Thieves is free, isn't it? Or is it not free? No, well, here it's saying it costs $30, so I guess it's $40. I guess it's not free. I was under the impression that base game was free, but I guess not. Yeah, so weird. I mean, one part of me was my first thought before I thought more was weird. I wonder if they're thinking Battle.net, maybe that could be a Steam competitor. Maybe we should do that. But that's what the Xbox Game Store is. But then I also thought, so then I said to myself, hey self, that's dumb. And then my other self, my third self said, yeah, but that would not be the first or last time 2 different parts of Microsoft decided to do 2 different conflicting things and fight it out. Microsoft was notorious for this back in the day. They would have like features like we're going to do a new note-taking app, and like 2 different teams, like maybe one of them's not even part of the Office team. They would go off in different directions and they would develop their things, and the executives would kind of like let it happen and let those teams fight it out. So I don't know. Maybe somebody is thinking on the BattleNet side is going, Xbox game stores, they had their shot, and they haven't even beat Epic, which everybody hates compared to Steam. Wouldn't it be cool if we were Steam? $1 billion coming our way. So who knows? Maybe that's what they're thinking. So we'll see where that goes.
I think it's like, we're going to talk about this, but I think it's like how they described Harkonnen and House Atreides, and how even within those pillars, there's like houses and guilds that would compete with each other to get the attention of,
This is Microsoft's Landsarad. These houses are competing. And then there's Satya Nadella as the emperor, who's pitting them against each other to further his own hold on power. Boy, that's really stretching it. All right. Why did I put this in the news? What is this? I liked this idea. I saw this headline in Game Rant, and I liked the idea. I like what they're doing in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and it made me continue to be disappointed in Game Rant for the article, because the title,
they appropriated that word. Yeah.
The title is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's smartest accessibility feature understands players more than most RPGs. Okay. So the feature that they're describing is called Long Time No See. And it's if you don't play the game for a while, then you log back in, like maybe there was DLC, you launch the game again. It pops up a thing that says, hey, do you want to run through the tutorials again? That's all it is. This is it. That's it. Which I actually think is a fine thing, and it's cool that they're doing it. It was a good idea. But it's
certainly not new.
It's not new. It's not news. It's not worth 10,000 word article where they talk about accessibility, because that's not really what accessibility means.
Right. And then even in this article, the word accessibility is a link in one of it, and it links to an article about accessibility, and that article is about regular meaning of the word accessibility, like how to help players who have sight issues, or how to help players who have other
right, vision, who need better player access to content. Now this makes it's easier access for players that haven't returned for a while. I guess it's not accessibility. It's not what accessibility means. So I don't know who wrote this, but maybe they were stretching for clicks. Maybe they didn't understand what accessibility really means. It was just a little bit disappointing. Yet the idea of like run you through the tutorials, that's a good idea. Or to pop that kind of thing back up, as opposed to the Hideo Kojima idea that he had. He said it was more like a thought experiment, but this was like in the last 3 weeks. He had this brilliant idea that if you don't play the game for a while, your character like loses experience points and loses abilities the longer you don't play. And he said, that could be an interesting idea to explore.
Because punishment. Such a,
right. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, that actually is a dated. I mean, games used to do that.
I would hate that. That sounds terrible.
Kingdom Come does have a very long and meandering story over, multiple.
Right.
And I think with games that are especially story-driven games, it is easy for a player to go, "Oh, I don't know where I fit in. It's too big of a barrier."
Right.
So to have some help is great.
And plus, from all accounts, a lot of people like it, but a lot of people also admit to the fact that their combat system is a weird pain in the ass. Because it's a very manual combat system. It's like if the enemy is slashing their sword from the right, well, then you've got like these 5 points where you need to like move your mouse cursor so your sword goes to that side. Otherwise, it's not just like click to block. You need to like manually like move your sword to like block in the direction that they're fighting to like, and then you need to like parry and riposte to make an opening to be able to hit them. So you might need to practice that again when you get back. Okay, now this gets us to a little mini news segment that was some interesting stuff. So why don't you walk us through this, and I will pepper you with questions that you won't be able to answer because nobody can, including Blizzard.
One of the many versions of WoW that's out there and available right now is WoW Seasons of Discovery, and it's a game based on seasons, and it has all these wild different things you can learn, and different warlocks and rogues can be tanks, and it's like WoW extra, set in classic WoW. And they've introduced, I think, at least two new raids for Season of Discovery. But they've announced that Season Discovery is the end of the content development for Season of Discovery. Season Discovery of itself will continue to exist, and people can play it for months or maybe even years. They were kind of vague about that, but it's there now. Those people that were working on that development are going to work on something else, and that something else, really all they've said so far is we have big plans and big ambitions for this type of found photographs content set in the original world of Azeroth. So people are thinking some kind of WoW plus, maybe.
Interesting.
Which means WoW, vanilla WoW, but with additional things, but probably not seasonal like Season of Discovery was. So, and by found photographs, I think what they're referring to is things in the world of Azeroth that were originally this can be used for this other thing.
To me, that sounds like stuff based around member berries. Remember that thing? Yeah, let's do a thing.
Like for instance, one of the raids they introduced in there was based on a dungeon, Black Fathom Depths, and they also did a thing with Karazhan, which isn't even in vanilla, but I don't know how they got there. But it was Karazhan Crypts, so it was outside of Karazhan the instance, so it was in that zone of Deadwood or whatever it is. So yeah, I'm really, really interested in what they come up with next for the anyway.
Sure.
But one of the things they're giving to the Season of Discovery people is if you have progressed enough in that version of the game to have killed the first boss in the latest raid, then you get a character boost in WoW Classic that you can use in the next iteration of WoW Classic, which they're moving on to Mists of Pandaria. So WoW Classic is in Cataclysm right now, and they're moving on to Mists of Pandaria. So Seasons of Discovery players can leverage the hours they've put into Season Discovery if they want to and play Mists of Pandaria Classic.
Now, I think they also announced, and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they also announce that Mist of Pandaria is the last expansion that they'll be adding to WoW Classic?
No, I haven't. If they said that, I missed it.
I thought I read that somewhere. So maybe that's wrong.
I don't know. I don't know. I would be surprised just because it seems like it doesn't take them much to do it.
And that would be weird to end both of those things. But if they're changing the rules and they're going to be doing something different with this found photograph content, maybe.
But I think they still have classic eras. They still have hardcore.
Right.
I mean, I thought this found photograph thing refers to all those people that want to play vanilla, the old world of Azeroth, the pre-Cataclysm world of Azeroth.
Which there are a lot of people that want to do that.
It's interesting to think about. I hadn't seen that, but maybe it is going to be the last. Yeah, see, it's weird because I played the last remix, which was a retail thing, and it was set in the Pandaria zone. And basically, what remix is it's like a super hyped and sped up and amphetamine driven version of the game. And I feel like I already have a lot of Pandaria in me that hasn't subsided yet. So I don't know if I'm going to be playing classic Pandaria actually.
Well, Google's AI search says no, while Miss Pandaria is coming as the next WoW Classic, is not confirmed to be the last one. So maybe hallucinating, but I must be. Although here's another headline in 2024, Cataclysm will be the last Classic expansion confirmed. But then not.
And then confirmed is in quotes. Yeah, people thought when Remix came up, and I did not think this, but people thought that when Remix came up, Pandaria, that meant there was going to be no classic mob.
Yeah,
but I said,
which was wrong.
It's different. They fulfill two different goals.
So what would be after Pandaria? Is Draenor after Pandaria?
Yeah,
I like Draenor because but WoW housing is going to blow my blow Draenor out of the water, right?
Well, I don't know. It's different.
It is different.
I have noticed, and I didn't notice this ever before, but when in my hardcore travels, there's an NPC outside of the inn or near the inn in Menethil that you hear every once in a while that says something about how in Outland did this happen or whatever. And I'm like, I didn't catch that ever in any of my other iterations of WoW that Outland was a thing that a word that they would toss about and know what it meant before.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Maybe deep in the lore and like one of those things that.
Oh yeah, I mean, probably if I were a person who had played, the Warcraft games, I would probably already know that. Yeah.
Interesting news. We'll be watching that very intently, including, and this might be something we'll circle back on in future weeks. Ian Hazzakostas supposedly did a really good interview in the last week that sounds just secondhand. I keep hearing, he talked a lot about a lot of really cool things, more like design principles kind of discussion. I'm going to give that a look and see what was talked about there. There might be some interesting things to catch up on.
Me too. I would have watched it by now, but I got sidetracked by the Dune thing.
Dune. Well, before we get to Dune, quick note on things coming out. Tomorrow is Nice Day for Fishing. And then on Friday, this is May 30th, Elden Ring Night Rain, which is that co-op survive the content 40-minute round adventure, Elden Ring adventure game that's coming out on Friday. Be interested to see how that one lands because it's a twist. It's a twist. It's something that it sounds like the producer had been thinking about for quite a while for multiple iterations of the Dark Souls content over the years. And it finally sort of came together with the Elden Ring round of content. And they're happy that they got to produce this. We'll see if it hits I don't know exactly who it's for. So hopefully it looks really interesting though for somebody. So we'll see who finds it and likes it and wants it. And then yes, a bunch of Dune stuff that we'll be talking about because that's coming out in 8 days. This podcast is brought to you by Garden and a Goat, the upcoming game from Contemplation Games. We're doing a lot of work this week in 2 things. One is a cosmetics system, so you'll be able to earn cosmetics in-game. It's all in-game. We're not going to have any kind of cash shop, but going to earn little outfits for you and the goat. We already have like the deco system that went in. You have decorations that you'll be able to place in the garden. Some of them will be functional. And then we also have work going on our next garden, our next biome. That's exciting to see. There's some more art discussion going on that today even. This podcast is also brought to you by Alea Iacta Est, AIE-Guild.org. In AIE-Guild.org, where you can get to our Discord there and in the new Overlords Discord. Both of those are sort of a lot of the Venn diagram of people that are in both of those is almost a complete circle. Dune Awakening will have a group. We're not going to be a big, huge group. We're not going to fill up the 32 slots in the Dune, even in the Dune Guild, and that's the maximum you can have in a single guild. Although there will be people that'll have bigger guilds. We'll talk about that in a second. We will have people playing both of those out of both of those groups and have discussions going in both of those. So join either one. Come and say hey, what server you guys on? We'll get you in if you would like to play on the 5th or the 10th. This podcast is also brought to you by all of you out there watching, listening on YouTube, on all of the feeds, where all of our RSS ends up, which is Apple, iTunes, and Spotify. It's still on both of those. You can ask your Amazon Alexa to play the new Overlords podcast, and it'll do it. Drop a review. I think our last review was about 7 years ago on iTunes. So drop a review on iTunes. Now you don't need to do that. Just like and subscribe. That's plenty. Or just continue to watch and chime in. You guys are all awesome. And with that, let's talk about some of this.
Find the Fremen. Wake the sleeper. You will know when it is done.
We will know when it is done, Sema, but will we know when it has started? Hopefully on the morning of the 5th, 9 a.m. Central Time on the 5th of June.
Are you going to alarm it?
I am going to alarm it. Well, because I want to get up. I need to get some studio work done, and then I need to get a run in, and then I need to sign over the deed to my house because I've sold all worldly assets, and I'll be living in a van that just has a computer and nothing else. And isolated
so
under
you still
a bridge.
got a fever.
More than ever. I keep trying to distract myself with other games, and it's coming and going. I was afraid of this, and it did happen in the past week a little bit. I'm getting burnt out on Dune Awakening before even ever having played it, because I spent a lot of time like trolling the forums, reading the Reddit threads, and they kind of all the content creators and everybody ran out of things to say until yesterday and today, when the Q&A with the content creators happened. And it was a private Q&A, but then the content creators were allowed to talk about it. And then
what you could do to sort of occupy your mind is go back and read the book.
I could read the book, because actually Joel, the producer, the game director, talked about something you're supposed to get hints from in the book. And they said, Are you going to be able to raid bases in the deep desert? Will there be base raiding? And he said there will be like a small window where you actually can do base raiding in the deep desert, and for you to figure out how to do that, you better have read the books. Is what he says.
He said if you read the book, then you probably know. Is what he said. But that is one overwhelming feeling I got from them today, is that they are very passionate about the Dune world.
Yes.
And making the Dune world come to life.
Really sounds like they are. And the whole group was just it, and all along has been good about talking about what they've, what their objectives are with the game, what they're trying to achieve, and why it's sort of like ended up with the way it's ended up. And they've done a lot of really good work. So I wish them all the success. They deserve it. In fact, I did end up getting the deluxe edition for one, because you have to get one of the two higher end editions to start on the 5th versus the 10th. Any edition starts on the 10th. The two higher end editions have advanced access. They're hoping to actually break up people so they're not all starting at the same moment. You can tell, you can see it in their eyes. They're a little bit worried. They had a really good beta weekend with tons and tons of people playing, and all of their server infrastructure and everything held up, but you can see the fear in their eyes. They hope that it's still going to hold up on launch. Doing some of the people starting on the 5th and some of the people starting on the 10th, they're hoping that smooths out that launch window a little bit too, so that things don't explode. Because you can never, from a networking perspective, you can always get overwhelmed, no matter how many servers you throw at the problem. So I hope that all holds up, and I hope I don't get to June 5th at 9 a.m. and there's a 5-hour login queue. Oh, the servers are down. We're postponing launch. Yeah, because having quit my job,
I would be surprised. I would be surprised.
Yeah, at this point, it seemed really solid on the beta weekend. So There were like no queues or anything, and there were a lot of people
I
playing.
predict.
Sema says, and if Sema says it, it is
smooth
fact.
launch.
They showed off a lot in this. So let's first go about what they talked about with the Q&A with the content creators, because that was a little bit more concise, but a couple really interesting tidbits came out of that. One of the things that they sort of led with and this was sort of like an open discussion that the content creators were able to take notes on, but it wasn't recorded. So this is all secondhand, third hand. But one of the things they seem to reinforce a couple times even since then in some side interviews is they hope to be working on this game for the next decade at least, and they already have a 10-year story plan. And they've alluded to even things like down the road, a long ways down the road, so maybe like a couple years, but getting off of Arrakis and new planets. They have said all of the main story will be free content that will be with the base game, but there will be DLC, and their current plan is once every 3 months, a DLC package, kind of like this seasonal DLC updates. But that won't be main story. So you won't miss out on anything if you don't participate in the DLC stuff. They'll all be part of the main game. And then a corollary to that, which did come up in the dev stream today, was the deep desert and sort of like the main end game for Arrakis will continue to be the main end game forever. Even if you can go to other planets and they add another tier of gear, they'll always update the deep desert to continue to be that tier as well. So that was interesting.
They referred to it as the core, basically.
Yeah. Because it's the evergreen content for them. You know, they'll be able to it wipes itself every week, and they have the opportunity to even add new points of interest and add new content into the deep desert over time because it refreshes every week. So they want that to be the place that provides them a platform to keep the game fresh in a repeatable way. So that's going to prevent them from having to like make a whole new continent and all new art assets and all of that. It'll be much easier to keep the game kind of fresh within the boundaries of what's going on in the deep desert. That's something that like Blizzard can't rely on when they have to have like a whole new continent that they need to add on, which makes it tough for them. They also talked about the factions, and this is something I didn't like. They said there are currently 2 factions. You need to belong to a faction. Your guild needs to belong to a faction if you want to participate in one of the end game challenge systems called the Lancerad. The Lancerad is like a weekly challenge where you're competing against all of the other guilds within each of the 2 factions. So it's faction versus faction, really. And you're almost playing on a bingo board where if you do a bunch of objectives and win one of the 25 slots on a 5x5 bingo board, you want to get 5 in a row, diagonal, up or down. And if your faction gets 5 in a row before the other faction does, your faction wins for the week. And it sounded like you get personal rewards if you hit some threshold, which I really hope so. That would be a great way to add on to this. But I'm not exactly clear on that. Regardless, your faction wins. There's a major prize, which is the winning faction then gets votes, and all the guilds that participated get a vote or a couple votes, depending on how much they participated. But you get to like vote on a new rule for the next week. And maybe that's like your faction gets a special vendor that they can go talk to for the next week. Or something terrible, like Deep Desert is full loot PvP for the next week. That's one of the examples they gave, which I hate. But the third faction is something they teased. So this has sort of like been floating around. They confirmed it in the Q&A. There will be a third faction, not at launch, but soon after launch. And I think the way they're trying to set it up is, say you have a server that's like 70% Harkonnen and only 30% Atreides, and it feels bad because the Harkonnen groups are always winning. The third faction, I think, will always end up teaming up with the losing faction of the previous week or the faction that's less populated or something like that. It's supposed to be a balancing third faction that will come in. And then the part that I really didn't like, it's not terrible, but they said you can change factions. So the way you do that is through betraying your current faction. But if you betray your current faction, you can never go back to that faction again. So say if you started Atreides and you wanted, the third faction comes in and it's the Imperial family, I forgot what their name is, Caldera or whatever, or it's the Fremen. Say it's the Fremen. The Fremen are really cool. You want to go join the Fremen. Okay, well, you could do that. You can go join the Fremen, but now you can never go back to Atreides. And the reason I really don't like that, the reason I dislike that the most is there's cool cosmetics tied with each of these factions. So like the people that want the completionists, what their plan is, okay, well, I guess I need to start with the faction I hate the most, betray that, get all of the cosmetics, betray that faction, join the next faction, get all of those cosmetics. And then if a third faction comes out, then I got to betray that one. I can never go back. And that seems like a bad system because everybody wants all the cosmetics, right? So
do they? I mean,
well, I like the Harkonnen Ornithopter skin better than I like the Atreides Ornithopter skin, but I don't want to be a Harkonnen ever because they suck. The lore.
All right, Jimmy.
I mean, they are like torture and slavery is cool with like Harkonnen. I know people like to be the bad. Nobody knows what the factions breakdown is going to be. And there's a bunch of these debates, both in the public Discord and in the Reddit threads and in the forums. I can't tell yet, but there's enough people at least that are just saying, Harkonnen for life. Harkonnen are the coolest. It's going to be Harkonnen. How could you? They're not cool. They're not good. There's nothing redeeming. It's not Shades of Grey. They are bad, gross, evil people. So I don't know why they think that that's cool. But that's just me. And that's RPing. That's me. That's a little bit of my RPing in my head. Does their architecture and their skins of their ornithopters look cool and look cooler than this Atreides ornithopter skin? yeah, it looks really cool. I want it. So there's that. That's a little bit of a problem. So we'll see. AIE in our New Overlords group, we're going to pick eventually. We're not going to pick it on launch. We're not going to pick in the first week. We'll let everybody sort of settle in. We'll get a sense of where things are and we'll decide then. But I bet we're just going to pick a faction and I bet it's going to be probably Atreides so that we can play in the Lancerad, depending on how fast they're going to add the third faction and then just go with that.
One of the things they did say today in the live stream is that if you never pick a faction, there's no story content that you're blocked from other than the story of that faction, but your personal story.
Yes.
There's no barriers.
And you're not blocked from the deep desert.
Feel like I feel like there's time to decide.
Yes. You can't participate in the Lancerad without joining without your guild joining a faction. And then there's also the other trick that if half your guild is one faction and half your guild, personally, the people have joined one faction, half the guild has joined the other faction, and your guild chooses one of those two, everyone who's not in that faction gets kicked out of the guild immediately. So that's weird. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes. So I didn't like that. Let's see, blah, 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 hot bar slots. Oh, the only thing I didn't like about hot bar slot discussion was they said they didn't want like a quick swap where you like swap your gear and your hot bar slots, like what weapons loadout you have. They didn't want a fast swap. So they said, oh, that doesn't fit into the lore. We want people to, it sounded like they're kind of saying, and this is what they're kind of saying is they want people to kind of commit. If you're getting ready to go do like, you're on a gathering mission and you get like your still suit because that's better for gathering. And you get like one of the non-assault, but you get like a gathering vehicle, then you're like set for gathering and you should just go out and gather. The downside to this that I don't know if they're not thinking about it or they don't care about is PvPers love this idea. They love that if the PvEers are out there doing their PvE thing, that they can't suddenly switch and like pull out a gun because now they're just like sitting duck, easy targets. So the fact that now I'm like, I can't easily like swap to better armor and weapons to defend myself, that just seems like throwing a bone to the PvPers. I don't care what kind of like lore that you're trying to promote. That's what it feels like to me. So I don't know if they're just like not thinking that through, but that's the gamified thing. That's what happens. This is like if you try to like fly around an Eve in like a mining ship. You're just fodder for the combat ships that fly through the system. As soon as a combat ship enters the system, you need to like duck and cover because you won't survive. So that's kind of like what they're setting it up as, which then allows like the PvP gangs, which they had some fun discussions on that, which we'll get to, is, you know, they think there's going to be like a lot of these like good guy PvP guilds that'll be like protecting people out in the deep desert. Yeah. It makes me laugh, Joel. Yeah, there'll be like a couple stories about some of those good guy PvP guilds, and then there'll be the 99% of other PvPers that are shoot on sight, kill everybody, roaming gangs of multiple networked guilds that make their fun by, they don't even care what you have. They just want to like roam the desert and kill people. So the way they think that might not be the case is fun. So we'll see if somehow they can magically create a system where that doesn't happen. I will be amazed and I will bow down to their design philosophy. So far, I see nothing that would promote that. Blah blah blah. Scrap vehicles. So they had this thing where
PvP,
oh, go
is there
ahead.
PvP in Conan?
There can be, but Conan, you can also have a private server or a PvE server.
Right. Okay. Now
they did say there may be private servers, and they're working towards private servers. I don't know, and they haven't explained this or how this is going to work. It could be just like a private server of the non-deep desert that feeds into a public deep desert. Or if you can have a private server where it's all private, well then great. Because we'll just have we'll have a new Overlords AIE private server, and we'll have full run of deep desert. We'll get to like do all the things and not have to worry about PvPers coming in and, you know, kicking over our sandcastle. Which that would solve it. But they kind of like insist on this idea that PvPers and PvEers can coexist easily in the deep desert. Oh, it's just so big. Yeah, that's not a problem at all. Now they keep insisting on that, so we'll see how it works out. But I don't think any deep desert would be big enough for that to be the case, for people not to find you and steal your stuff. This one may change some people's strategy for the start of the game. There were broken sandbikes and broken ornithopters in the far zones, but even in the very starting areas, there's a couple broken sandbikes that appear randomly once in a while. You could grab those and it's mostly broken. It doesn't last very long, but you could have suddenly a sandbike immediately within like the first 15 minutes of the game. And maybe you could have an ornithopter within the first hour of the game because you used that sandbike early to cross the desert, and you got to a place where there was an ornithopter that you could grab. So they definitely got rid of the ornithopters. They said that specifically. Whether or not they got rid of the sandbikes is a little up in the air. It sounds like they may have gotten rid of those early sandbikes as well. I don't mind that. I kind of want to build my own, and that's kind of the progression anyway. But grabbing one early was kind of something I was going to keep an eye out for.
Also, and if you die, yep. you lose your whatever the word for money is, and whatever things you've gathered, but you don't lose your gear.
You lose nothing that's equipped on your body, in your armor slots, or on your hotbar. Only the things that are inventory items in your backpack. And by lose, it drops on the ground and you can go back and get it.
But I can see the appeal of getting the early scrap vehicle and rushing
Yes.
the deep desert. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Because you can't survive without some kind of, because there's no water in the deep desert, so you can't survive without some kind of vehicle.
Right. You
To get
can't,
in and get back
because of
out
the
again.
worms, you can't even cross. You can't cross from the starter zone to the second starter zone without
Oh,
a
right.
vehicle. Because the
That's
worms
right.
leech you.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
No modding, and that's partially because the game it would break the game to some degree for one, and for two, it would break the IP, and Frank Herbert's estate kind of doesn't want what the things that modders would insist the first mods that would come out would be here's the nude mod. It's all the nude
Right.
people. So
Right.
they kind of don't want that,
Here's the
especially since there's more TV shows being developed and more movies, and they can't really have that happening with the brand. And then the last one with the Q&A, which led into things that they clarified in the dev stream also, was the base rating. Will there be base rating? And they said, oh, yeah, there's going to be a very small window where base rating might be possible, and you have to read the books. It's hinted at. So, spoilers.
They just, to back off a little bit, they didn't say you have to read the books. There'll be a
Right.
way to figure out in game.
Well, everybody's going to know. In fact, everybody knows already. That cares.
They said it's from the book, and if you read the books, you probably already know. But yeah,
it's like there's a.
And they did say there's no base rating in the PVE zones,
Right.
including the
You don't have to worry
PVE
about that
part
at
of
all.
the deep desert. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the starting 10% strip of the deep desert map. So you think of it as like a big square. The lowest 10% is where you get teleported in. You sort of get teleported in that area. That is a whole strip that's PVE where you can set up a staging base and have a safe area to stage going out then into the deep desert. That's all safe. It's only if you put a forward operating base in the actual deep desert that people can mess with it.
And they're only going to last for a week anyway, right?
Right. Yeah, they're supposed to be temporary anyway. And I would bet people might use it temporarily to refine some stuff. And then as soon as they're done, they'll have people the big guilds will have people guarding it. And while the rest of their team is going out and harvesting the spice blow, and then they'll bring it back and refine stuff because spice is very heavy. And then they'll pick everything up, but they could leave the building still there, but pick everything of value up and take it all back out to the staging area.
Right. And it won't be very time consuming to build your base there because of blueprints.
Mm-hmm. In fact, they showed that in the dev stream. So you can watch them building a base in I think they actually built it in the staging area, but they had 3 people popping together this base really quick based on a guild size base that they brought the blueprint for into the deep desert. That was cool. The building costs are cut in half in the deep desert as well, both because they want you to be able to do it quick and they know that it's temporary and that kind of stuff. So, and by building costs, it's how much granite rocks you have to have picked up off the ground to build each building piece, which is pretty trivial. It does not take a lot of time to gather enough materials to make yourself a nice size base, minutes, not hours. So that's not bad. But yeah, the base rating, there will be people that will just run around and raid people's bases every chance they get. Because it's with any of that kind of stuff, it's not like I'm blaming them. The PvPers, it's content for them. It's a thing to do, and it's exciting in the fact that everybody's a streamer these days. So the streamers going doing something that messing up somebody else's base and raiding a base. That's an exciting thing to show on your stream. Why wouldn't you strive to do that as often as you can and go kill people randomly as often as you can? Because it's content. That's their content. So yeah, I don't know why they're thinking that won't be happening, because it totally will. Because that's it. That's why they're there.
They even said, and maybe this was under certain circumstances, if it was, I missed it, but they even said that you won't necessarily be able to tell by looking at someone. There won't be like a title that shows you what guild
No.
someone's in. So they could be, that person in your base could be someone infiltrating that you see, you know, over there.
If you left a door open and they were able to like sneak in with you.
Yeah.
Because the doors will all be locked to people that aren't like in your guild, or that you've not explicitly given permissions to. But yeah, they kind of, and they're excited about that. They want that kind of thing to happen.
It's intrigue.
It could be, yeah, because it feels intriguing, and it would make for like a good story, right? I dressed
that
in
time
I
I
saw
snuck
what they
into,
were. Yeah, I snuck in and I got up all in their business. Can you believe it? However, it makes for a good story that feels bad for everybody except that one person who snuck in. So I get what they're going for, but it's not fun for everyone. I don't know.
We'll see.
It's like those stories in Eve of the people that like infiltrated a corporation and like stole all of their stuff, and it makes people quit the game. It makes for a good headline, and people love like reading that on the forums. And oh my gosh, can you believe this happened? $10,000 worth of real world ships were stolen out of this guild's hangars because somebody infiltrated their corporation. And Game Rant writes an article about it. And then a whole bunch of people quit the game. That's what happens. So we'll see. That leads us to, we've covered most of it, but we'll go through a couple things. In the dev live stream itself, combat updates, that was a big thing that people wanted to, they did after the stream, Sema, they did an interview with Carnage, who's a really nice guy and a reasonable streamer. And then they did a one-on-one dev interview. I think Joel got on with Shroud. The streamer. Shroud was one of the PvPers that did their little PvP event that made them look really bad. I don't know why but he's got a huge audience, so okay. But he made them look really dumb.
And what they said today too was that they knew that problem was there.
Yeah, if they knew that problem was there, then they at least should have briefed the PvPers that were like,
or what? Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It made them look really bad and dumb, and made a lot of people like on a bunch of forums, people were saying, "No, I'm definitely not buying this game. It looks like garbage." Because Shroud was running there going, guys, this is terrible. Look how this sucks. Look how terrible. We got to talk about this. Look how dumb. It's dumb. And then they reward Shroud with probably money for doing that in the first place. And then another private interview. But no publicity is bad publicity, I guess. Anyway, they're fixing that. They're fixing the combat update. The way they're fixing it is a little more extreme than I expected. So nobody knows how it's going to feel, but they like divided up melee attacks between heavy attacks, which stagger, versus the slow blade, which attacks through shields. And then they're also adding this passive ability called Second Wind that after you get fully staggered will quickly build back up so that you can dodge out and escape out of stun lock, basically. We'll see how that goes. Nobody knows yet. Everybody's like, tell me more. What are you talking about? So I don't know. They showed some really cool stuff with the buggy vehicle and mining with the buggy. And a couple of the content creators have been alluding to this pretty heavily. They're like, oh, the vehicles are going to be really important. So here they're showing it in the video of driving your buggy vehicle with a mining laser attachment on it. And I guess you get tons more materials when you use that mining laser attachment, and the buggy itself can hold like 10 times the amount that you can hold in your inventory. So it's like really important to get these buggies and use the sand buggies and use them that way, which is cool. And they showed it in this area, the zone called the Haga Rift. Did you see this zone when they were going in there, Sema? It's all dark.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
I don't know if you got a sense of it. I saw a couple other leaked videos, but did you see like how it looked like there were like stone bridges up off in the distance?
Yeah.
That's all part of the zone. And you can you start way up high up there and you have to like drop down off those stone bridges. And that when they talked about the verticality, that's all the zone. It's like way up there. It's like barely out of the draw range to get to the top of this chasm. It's really a cool design and a cool zone. So that's fun. What else did they show? What are some of the things you saw? So you saw some of the building set, like the Atreides building that they went into.
Well, I was just going to comment that people in the chat were saying, wait, so there's only one biome, like meaning that there would be no variety after they just finished explaining that I think they called them galleries, but as you go down levels, you get complete variety.
Yeah.
But they're like, but somehow if they're not biomes, because that's like a survival game,
but there's
word
not.
or whatever.
I mean, Dune is the desert planet. I mean, that's the whole idea
Right.
of it. No,
Right.
there's not more biomes. It's a desert planet. Even so,
Right.
though, they even showed like in the Shield Wall zone, which is before the deep desert. It's one of the northmost of the Haga Basin zones. There's like cactuses and stuff there because there's been terraforming experimentation going on. So technically that's even a different biome. But as you're suggesting, this Haga Rift, it's a different color palette. It's a different atmosphere. It's kind of like foggy and dark down there. You need lights.
Mhm.
It's a different world
Right.
in a really
Right.
cool way.
So I mean, it's sort of like biomes is a way of getting variety. It doesn't mean if you don't have different biomes that you don't have variety.
Right. Exactly. So it's cool. Cool. This is one I liked that I want to think hard about even for our game because we have a cosmetic system. Their cosmetic system is divided up into two parts. One part is called the variant and the other part is called the swatches. And you'll be able to in-game and with Twitch drops and wherever else, probably Cash Shop, get cosmetics. And the variants are basically like changing the model. So if you get a ornithopter variant for the Atreides ornithopter, this one that's getting built right now, that's the model. The Harkonnen ornithopter is more like rounded. You know, it's like a different shape ornithopter. So the variant changes the model. The swatches change the color and the paint job. So I like that split between the model versus the colors. So the swatches versus the variants. I think that's a clever way to break that up from a design perspective. So they showed this ornithopter stuff, and this is where your ornithopter comes into play, isn't it, Sema? Your ornithopter that can carry other ornithopters. So this is the smaller one that they're building here. Later on, they built one of the big ones that can, here it is. They built one of the big ones that can carry other vehicles, including other ornithopters. But I don't know if it can carry another carrier. So what they did pick up was, so it's a carrier ornithopter that can pick up the sand crawlers, the spice harvesters. That's the main thing that they're sort of designed for. So you can pick up a spice harvester, you can bring it out into the deep desert, and they did this on stream. So it's a really, really cool. And this was live. This was players because Joel and the other director, I forgot what his name was, Jack or something. What's his name? Adam? Bill? Mm-hmm. One of those.
I don't remember. He was the executive producer. Yeah.
They kept like telling the people playing the game, and they kept switching between the camera views. It was really well produced, but they said, "Oh, like look to the left, here. Whoever's flying the ornithopter now, look to the left." And they would like do other things, and they would like bring up UI screens. This was all live play while they're talking. Really well produced.
It was a really good live stream. Yeah.
And they had like a dozen people playing because there was a bunch of other ornithopters flying around. And then they did this spice blow harvest. So they had the carrier, they picked up a harvester, they brought it out to the spice blow. They had other people in like fast ornithopters drop off people on sand bikes that like went around the rim of the spice blow, dropping thumpers into the sand to distract the worms. So it like showed all of this stuff. It turned out really, it was an adventure to watch them pull this off. And it's a thing you'll be able to do in game with a big enough, coordinated, capable enough group. Like, will you be able to do it with just a couple people? A little bit. Will you be able to do it solo? Probably not. You'll definitely not. Although even one of the content creators said there was somebody who was like solo harvesting a spice blow with a crawler. Like they piloted themselves out with a carrier and a spice harvester, dropped off the spice harvester, landed the carrier, got in the spice harvester, harvested a bunch of stuff as quick as they could before the worms were going to come, got back into the carrier, picked up the harvester, and left. All solo. Really hard to do, though, because you're getting assaulted by the small worms, and then eventually the grandfather giant worm with the big ring mouth comes and swallows the whole site. And they showed that at the end, which was cool. Did you see that when the big worm came?
When the big worm, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I don't like PvP in these games, but seeing this happen, seeing this whole spice harvesting operation, maybe I was just started to think, maybe it won't be that bad. Maybe it won't be that. Maybe we could do it. Let's go do it.
I mean, they made a convincing case. I mean, this area is big. And a guild, and you said you were going to say something more about this, but a guild is only 32, max of 32 people.
Yes. So here they are. They're picking up the crawler. Then they're going to look down in a second. You'll see that whole crater gets eaten by the grandfather worm. And the little worms off to the sides look tiny in comparison. Okay, so what I was going to say about that, though, was they can say, oh, we capped the guild size at 32, so you won't get those big Zerg guilds happening. It's just not going to happen. Yeah, that's going to happen. It always does. You could cap it at 0 and you'll get, the big content creator on the Discord or the big PvP guild, and they'll all be coordinating in Discord, and they'll be like, okay, here's our 4 groups of 32. So we've got 100 people that are going to go out into the deep desert today, guys. And they're all dressed in the same outfits. So because there's no nameplates either. So it is kind of hard. And there is friendly fire. Like if you throw a grenade into a group of people that are fighting, you can hurt your own players.
So I did not catch that.
That helps a little bit.
Exciting. Yeah.
But your guild of 32 can still get assaulted by a Zerg of 100 people easily. So we'll see again. But their optimistic view of, we already saw in the beta, things that happen in the beta, everybody's like all together in the beta. Really in a good way. And a lot of times, like if you could just have like the beta feeling and community persist into the public, games would be really nice places. Because you don't get toxicity because you get kicked out of the beta, for one. And for 2, everybody just wants to like experience all the things to try it all out. But once it gets competitive and once you get the sweaty players who want to prevent other people from doing things, and it matters because it's permanent and there's Lancerad results and all of that, the game changes. So their idea, and all Star Citizen is saying this too. They're like promoting, well, there's going to be players out there that, if somebody's out there pirating people, there's going to be those players out there that are the heroes, and they're going to go like help those people out and like escort the miners so that they can go mine. And oh yeah, that's gonna be, yeah, that's.
I totally missed that. I don't know if my brain just turned off when they were saying that, but that does seem naive.
Yes. The good guy, the good guy PvPers is something that Joel actually said, and is banking on. So good guy PvP guilds. Yeah, it's just because you'll have that for 5 minutes, and then the bad guy PvPers will all be shoot on sight. So even the good guy PvPers that want to like go out there and like help somebody out, like they see somebody on the sand and they're gonna like fly down there and say, how you doing? It's gonna quickly devolve into, and it always does, shoot on sight, kill on sight, shoot on sight, because the bad guys will always shoot on sight, and whoever shoots first has an advantage and might likely win the fight. So after you get killed 3 times because the bad guys always shoot on sight, you will then shoot on sight also. I could be wrong. Again, I hope I'm wrong. They showed a lot of cool stuff though. So it was really cool to see them go to the Arakeen social hub village, show the overworld map. They talked about, they still said the thing. So it's Scott, the executive producer was Scott. So Scott and Joel still said the thing about, will PvEers be able to participate in the end game? And this is and I ranted about this last week. This is one of my least favorite statements of theirs, which is, yeah, because even that end game tier, like this tier 6 gear, that's only comes from the deep desert, and the tier 6 materials that only come from the deep desert, you'll just be able to go to the market and like buy that stuff. Okay. That is not playing the game. That is not, yes, it's all available to you. That is.
I mean, I kind of disagree with that, because you're playing the game to make the resources to be able to buy it, and you're playing the game in the way you want to because you don't want to PvP.
Right, but it's not. But buying the resources is not playing the game. So and taking the scraps of whatever the people that are playing the game decide to bring to the market or decide to sell to you. I can't see. I don't agree that that's playing the game. Like if you now
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
You can't say someone that only plays the auction house in WoW is not playing the game. That is a way to play the game. But you can't say that they're...
No, but what I am saying is, I don't know, say you want to buy invisibility potions off the AH because you can't make them.
But what if you could just buy nothing of like all of the raid gear, all of the end game gear, like you couldn't do without PvPing in WoW? Would you feel like that's fine because it'll show up on the auction house once in a while?
I didn't say it was fine. I will probably not play this game because it's of the PvP aspect, the same that I did with New World. I'm just saying, if it's possible to carve a place out for yourself, where you're playing the game and the way you progress is getting item A, so that you can then buy whatever the items are you need.
Yeah.
Like, yes, not just standing in the AH is its own thing for sure. You're just making money that way.
Bank standing.
Bank standing. In this example, though, you're out playing the game, you're gathering, you're building things, you're making things. And then you might sell things too.
I am skeptical. Yeah. And I'm just also skeptical, especially like within the first month, if any of the players that do play in the deep desert are going to sell anything, because they're all going to be like getting it for themselves and their friends and like building, because it's all destructible. It all expires. Nothing is permanent. Everything, like when you repair something, the max durability decreases. So you need to be like banking resources and banking materials, and you need extra ornithopters because your ornithopter eventually is going to break and you're going to need a new one. So they're not going to sell anything for the first month. So you're just going to sit around like waiting for scraps. Just won't it. But I will say there still will be hundreds of hours of stuff before that to play or outside of that. And I think the game is going to be worth it. Even if you get to that point and realize that there is a whole nother tier, a whole nother segment of the game locked behind the PvP wall, it still may
Right.
and will be worth it for lots and lots of people, including myself, is say that PvP is a complete shit show and it's terrible and nobody would ever want to go there. I will still play tons of this game, get hundreds of hours of value out of it, be happy with that having had the opportunity to play it. And then I'll
Right.
stop. I just won't do that part.
Right. And after 100 hours or a couple hundred hours, you will actually know the answer to this question that you're predicting
Yes.
the worst outcome of.
Yes. And
And also, I mean, this has brought up another thing for me this week that I've been thinking about is like, they also said this is kind of meandering, but I'll get there. It's like they took MMO they took the word MMO out of the way they refer to Dune, because the reason they put it in there in the first place was that this game shares some things like a player economy with how we understand MMOs. But what it wasn't was an MMO RPG. It's an MMO survival game. And that communication or using the word MMO made people think MMO RPG because that's what they're used to MMO being. So instead of them saying to themselves, where they're just idiots, they don't know what words mean, they said, this is not clear, we're taking it out.
yeah, you're right. I did think that was interesting as well. Just, I didn't realize that they had gone that far and taken that stance to sort of like remove that from the vocabulary, which I
thought
think
that was
is fine.
interesting. Yeah. So I think they do have a vision of people playing the game in different ways. And we'll have to see.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's going to be a living service as well. They could break down in a month later and say, now we are going to open up a PvE only world with a PvE deep desert, or the private servers. So private servers are coming online and they're going to do X, Y, Z, and you can, have whatever rules you want. Those will be game changers.
I mean, there's two things, right? Like one is, I mean, when they talked about PvP and players that don't want a PvP, it seemed like they understood that why players might not want a PvP. But there's also solo versus playing as a part of a large group, like a multi-guild group or whatever. So that's also going to block you out from some stuff, right?
Yep.
So
yeah,
that's, so do they need to design the game so every solo player can get all the best stuff?
No,
maybe.
No, and I'm not necessarily suggesting that, and I'm not suggesting that they need to design it in any way, like that any PvE player should be able to even play the end game at all. I'm not suggesting that.
Right.
I'm just saying that. Stop saying, and it seems like a marketing strategy. It's like, oh no, PvE players, come on down. You'll be able to play. Everything will be available to you. Except, all of the end game. But but there'll be other ways. You'll be able to like buy some stuff off we'll take care of you.
Yes, I get what you're saying. You feel like it's disingenuous.
Yes, that's it. I don't think it's necessarily bad,
Right.
A bad of a design. And in fact,
it doesn't make it a bad game.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. If 100% of the game was open PvP, it still wouldn't be a bad game. It might not be. It might be even less of a game for me. But I played Eve for a long time, and Eve is, you can get killed anywhere in Eve. There's degrees of danger, but it's like PvP everywhere. Even though there's this place called HiSec where you're supposed to be immune from it, PvPers they're just guaranteed to get killed by the guards, the space guards, when they kill you there. So they don't do it very often because it's a guaranteed death for them, but they still do it. And I had really nice mining ships that got destroyed in HiSec because a group of PvPers decided that as long as the cost of my ships was more expensive than the cost of their ships, which were guaranteed to get destroyed, they were very happy with the exchange and they were happy to suicide themselves because that was their way of winning. Which is what people would do in a game like this. They'll take like cheap half-broken ornithopters, and even if they're guaranteed to die, it's like content and it's a win. So the idea of private servers, which so Forster's saying it will be limited to the basin, like the Siege, the Haga Basin. So have you confirmed them, Forster, that will there be no access to any deep desert on a private server, or will the private servers feed into a public deep desert? That's what I didn't understand, because that's less useful to have a private Haga Basin. It still could be nice because then you can build what you want and you will have people like building a bunch of stuff. So Forster's saying it will feed into a public deep desert. Interesting. I don't know how that will work, but okay. And still may be nice for us to set one of those up, because then we'll be able to make sure everybody gets in all together, and we'll have, we won't have a bunch of other players that are like blocking some cool places to build your temporary bus. But it's really big. It's a really, Haga Basin's a really big area. I'm not afraid of getting blocked out even in a public Haga Basin. So of like having my permanent base down there somewhere. So that's interesting to see. Not having a private deep desert makes it much less interesting to me, the idea of a private server. So, because that's the part that I want to be private. I want to be able to go and explore the deep desert at my leisure and not have to be looking over my shoulder the whole time. Because I don't mind the danger of like the worms and the NPCs, but it's the players who at a moment's notice can just like break all your toys. That's just not as fun. All right.
It's really interesting to be having this conversation in this day when we both play games, WoW and Star Wars: The Old Republic, that have sort of evolved beyond that. Like now PvP is strictly opt-in.
Right. There's no, they've all gone away from even like flag up for PvP kind of.
And even,
areas. Yeah, it's interesting. We'll see how it works out. Because there's still the survival and extraction games that are 100% PvP. So it's not like there's not a market for it.
Right. Yes.
So I'm not saying that they're going a wrong direction. I'm just saying it's not as fun for me. But it still may be fun, and I still may do some of the PvP. We'll see. It looks so cool out there. I'm gonna want to go take a look. I'll just go expecting to die, which is what you should do from that kind of plan perspective anyway.
Right. Don't take anything with you that you can't afford to lose.
Exactly. Sema knows. So you sat through a 2-hour stream on this now, Sema. You got the whole view of like all the cool content up until that point, which is all PvE. What are you thinking? You jumping in with us on the 5th?
No. I mean, the bottom line is I don't like hunger and thirst.
Yeah.
And I know that seems, in the context of everything we've been talking about, that seems petty, but it's like you were saying about if you have no deep desert to explore without looking around. I feel the same way about hunger and thirst. You can't check things out because you have to always be thinking, what do I have to kill to get a piece of raw, delicious meat to suck on so I won't starve and
well, there's no food. You don't have to worry about food.
Okay.
There's no hunger. There is food, but it's actually hard to get to. It could spice food.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
There is thirst. There's constant thirst. I found from playing the beta weekend for, as I said, for dozens of hours, I found the thirst mechanic in RuneScape Dragon Wilds, which we'll talk about next week, 100 times more annoying than the thirst mechanic in Dune, where that's the whole idea in Dune.
Like they have thirst in Valheim too, right? Like how does the thirst in...
No, Valheim has no hunger or thirst. Valheim has...
Really?
Yeah, that's the thing that people don't understand about Valheim sometimes. Valheim has, if you don't eat or drink anything, you're perfectly fine, but you only basically have like 20 health. You only eat food when you want to buff yourself up. So when you get into harder and harder content and you go into the swamp, you better have eaten food, because then the food doubles your HP. It basically, you don't level up your health in Valheim. You only eat better and better food. That's what it does in Valheim. But you're not going to starve just because you spent an hour chopping down wood.
Right.
So you'll just have a really small health bar, but you still have all your armor and weapons. You can still run away. You still can bug out of there. You're not going to die. But your health bar is really a small health bar. So don't mess around. Don't keep adventuring if you didn't bring enough food. But you're fine. If you're just exploring, you're good.
That is subtly different, yeah.
But I mean,
also, I didn't like it in Grounded.
Yeah. I think Valheim's system is clever in that way, in making it a buff system and not a penalty system.
The first time, whenever you woke up in quotes or logged in or whatever, the first thing you had to do was go out. Well, I think this changes as you get further into the game, but the first thing you basically had to do was go out and find dew on leaves.
Yeah,
before you could do anything.
You do need to do that in Dune. You do. I mean, thirst is a big thing, but because water is so integral to the game, it's not just it's not just thirst. It's water as currency, and it becomes more and more interesting, to the point where keeping yourself from being thirsty basically becomes a non-problem, but water continues to be more and more and more valuable as you go along, which really changes the concept, which makes it interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Another Dune show, I know, but Sema and I both sat through that live stream and had a lot of fun talking about it.
I thought it was really interesting. I thought the developer had some really, one of the things I liked about this live stream, and I'm not saying they're the only ones that do this by far, but that they really gave us a sight into the passion they have for the Dune IP, how they feel about each other working together all the time. And they had really a cute moment at the end where they were thinking about, this is our last live stream before actual launch, and how much they've put into it and how much they're looking for the players to get out of it. That kind of stuff that's amazing to me. I love that.
Yeah. I encourage anyone, if they want to really get a sense of who these people are and sort of what their thoughts are in the moment, to watch those last 10 minutes of the live stream, of that 2-hour live stream. It kind of it was really good insight into their mindset, what their worries are, what their hopes are, real sincerity of thought and discussion, and a culmination of a 5-year journey for them that I thought was cool. So check it out. Come join us on the 5th for the early access, the 10th after that. I'm going to be in there on the 5th because I'll be out for a while starting the 11th. And we will be talking about this again, I'm sure. So it's just going to be a thing for a little while. But maybe only one more time, because we'll get in there and get all bored of it real quick and move on to the next
you never
thing.
know. Right.
You never know.
Right. Maybe you'll get 100 hours in and you'll be like, oh, I just wish I could kill someone.
Right. Or I wish I could just have a raid to go do in a PvE world. So then we're going to go back and go into Star Wars and WoW and talk about all those again, which I'm sure we will. We're not turning ourselves into a Dune show, especially since Sema's still not on the bandwagon. So there we go. All right. That is it for today. All the feed and subscribe links are on newoverlords.com, and YouTube is on videos on YouTube/New Overlords. Please come chat with us on our Discord at newoverlords.com/Discord. You can also follow on all social networks, and we'll keep you up to date there too. And with that, we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.